There's a gambler named Eddie Greco sitting in the third row with $40,000 on Derek Williams and a sinking feeling in his stomach. He's watched 100 weigh-ins. He knows the theater of it, the posturing, the manufactured drama. Fighters talk because talking is part of the show, part of the promotion, part of making people believe this time might be different. Eddie knows it's all a script, except right now, standing 15 feet away from Mike Tyson, he doesn't feel like he's watching a script anymore. Williams is up on the platform talking. He's been talking for 90 seconds straight. Something about respect, something about proving the old guard wrong, something about how Tyson's aura only works on men who believe in it. His voice is strong. His delivery's good. He's playing to the cameras, and the cameras are eating it up. But Tyson isn't looking at the cameras. He's looking at Williams with the kind of focus Eddie's only seen once before in a nature documentary about sharks. They showed how a great white goes still right before it attacks, how it stops thrashing, how all that explosive violence compresses into absolute zero movement. That's what Eddie sees now. Williams finishes his speech. He turns. He steps forward into the traditional stare-down position. The crowd noise builds. Someone yells something about the old king being dead. Williams squares his shoulders and meets Tyson's eyes. And that's when Eddie knows that he can't explain how. But he knows with complete certainty that Derek Williams just made a terrible mistake. Not tomorrow night in the ring. Right now, in this moment. Whatever invisible line separates fight promotion from actual violence, Williams just crossed it without realizing. Eddie watches Williams' breathing change. Watches his pupils dilate. Watches his left eye twitch once, twice, 3 times in 4 seconds. Mike Tyson still hasn't blinked. The Mirage Hotel ballroom holds 1,200 people, and right now, every single one of them can feel it. The shift at IT happens in stages like weather changing. First, the people closest to the platform go quiet. Then the photographers stop adjusting their angles. Then the HBO commentators trail off mid-sentence. The silence spreads like spilled water until even the casino executives in the back are leaning forward, trying to understand what they're witnessing. This was supposed to be 3 minutes of promotional theater. Fighters talk. Fighters pose. Fighters sell the fight. Then everyone goes home and waits for Saturday night. But something's gone wrong with the script. Derek Williams is still standing in position. His fists are clenched at his sides. His jaw is tight. To anyone watching on television later, he'll look composed, confident, ready. But Eddie's close enough to see what the cameras can't catch. The sweat beading at Williams' hairline, even though the ballroom is air-conditioned to 68 degrees. The way his throat contracts when he swallows. The slight tremor in his left hand that he's trying to hide by keeping it pressed against his thigh. Williams is 28-0. 26 knockouts. He's been boxing since he was 7 years old. He's been in the ring with killers, with champions, with men who hurt people for a living. But he's never been this close to Mike Tyson. Not like this. Not in this silence. Not with those eyes. Eddie Greco grew up in South Philadelphia. His father ran numbers for the mob. His uncle trained fighters at a gym on Passink Avenue. Eddie learned young that violence has a language, that you can tell everything you need to know about a man by how he carries himself before the first punch is thrown. Most fighters, even good ones, have tells. They bounce. They rotate their shoulders. They break eye contact to glance at their corner, at the ref, at anything that lets them reset. Mike Tyson hasn't moved in 43 seconds, but he's standing there like something carved from stone, and the only sign he's alive at all is the barely perceptible rise and fall of his chest. His arms hang loose at his sides. His head is tilted forward just enough that you have to be standing exactly where Williams is standing to see his eyes straight on, and Williams is seeing them. Eddie can tell because Williams' posture changes. Subtle at first. His shoulders pull back half an inch. His weight shifts from the balls of his feet to his heels. His body trying to create distance without actually stepping away. Trying not to retreat. Trying not to show fear. Failing at both. There's a trainer named Richie Giachetti standing at the edge of the platform with one hand already raised, ready to step between them if this goes sideways. That Richie's been in boxing for 31 years. He's worked with champions, with prospects, with journeymen who took fights for grocery money. He knows the difference between a man who's dangerous and a man who's pretending to be. Mike Tyson isn't pretending. Richie watches Tyson's right hand. The fingers are slightly curved, not clenched, not loose, positioned exactly the way they'd be a half second before throwing the overhand right that ended 7 careers that Tyson's measuring distance. The commission official steps forward, trying to regain control. All right, gentlemen, let's give him a good show. Face the cameras, hold the pose, then we're done here. Neither fighter moves. Williams tries. You can see him try. His eyes want to break away, want to look at his corner, at the official, at anything that isn't Mike Tyson's face. But he can't, because some primitive part of his brain understands that breaking eye contact now means something worse than losing a stare down, that IT means surrender to SO he holds. Jaw clenched, fists tight, breathing shallow, trying to match intensity with a man who was built for this from the ground up, and that's when it happens. Eddie sees it first because he's looking for it. That Williams' eyes flicker, not away, not to the side, down. Just for a fraction of a second, his gaze drops from Tyson's eyes to his fists, then forces itself back up. That it's an instinct, a survival mechanism. The prey checking where the predator's weapons are. And Mike Tyson sees it too. His expression doesn't change. He doesn't smile, doesn't nod, doesn't give any acknowledgement at all that something just shifted, but everyone within 20 feet feels it. The fight just ended. Not tomorrow night in the ring. Right here, right now, in this ballroom with 1,200 witnesses and 40 cameras and a commission official trying to maintain the illusion that this is still theater. Williams knows it. Eddie can see it in the way Williams' shoulders drop half an inch, in the way his breathing gets faster instead of slower, in the way his left foot slides back. Not a step, just a shift in weight, but it's there, the concession, the acknowledgement, the answer to a question nobody asked out loud. Williams' cornerman moves first. A big guy named Marcus Thompson who trained Williams since he was 14. Marcus has seen his fighter go 12 rounds with former champions, has seen him get dropped in sparring and get back up, has seen him work through injuries, through exhaustion, through everything boxing throws at you. But Marcus has also been around long enough to know when to pull his fighter out of a burning building that he steps forward and puts a hand on Williams' shoulder. Gentle, firm. The touch breaks the spell just enough for Williams to remember where he is, who he is, what this is supposed to be. Williams steps back. Half a step, then a full step. His mouth moves. He says something that's probably supposed to sound defiant, supposed to sound confident. But his voice cracks, just a little, just enough that everyone in the first 5 rows hears it. The crowd noise returns like pressure releasing. Cheers, boos, commentary. The machinery of sports entertainment grinding back to life. The HBO crew moves in for reaction shots. The photographers surge forward, and Mike Tyson blinks for the first time in 72 seconds. He turns, steps down from the platform, walks toward the exit with his team around him. He doesn't look back, he doesn't need to. Eddie Greco sits in the 3rd row and watches Derek Williams do 3 interviews in the next 20 minutes. Williams says all the right things, talks about respect and preparation and how tomorrow night will be different. His smile's good. His delivery's confident. If you weren't standing 3 feet from him during the stare down, you'd believe every word. But Eddie was there, and Eddie knows the truth that'll come out later, after the fight's officially called off, after Williams' manager releases the statement about the hand injury that never happened. Derek Williams is 28-0 because he's fast and skilled and dedicated. Because he's been training since he was 7. Because he's talented enough that everyone who's fought him has lost. But Mike Tyson isn't everyone. Mike Tyson is what happens when talent meets something darker, something older, something that existed before boxing had rules and weight classes and commission officials. Eddie's uncle used to tell a story about the old days, about fighters who came up through bare-knuckle matches in warehouses, about the difference between men who learned to fight and men who were born understanding violence. You can teach someone to box, his uncle said, but you can't teach someone to have that thing that makes other men's instincts scream at them to run. Either you got it or you don't. Mike Tyson's got it. And for 72 seconds in a Mirage Hotel ballroom, Derek Williams looked directly at it and understood something true about himself. He's a boxer. Mike Tyson's something else. Eddie leaves the weigh-in and drives to the sports book at Caesar's Palace. He cashes out his ticket on Derek Williams. Takes the loss. $40,000 gone. The clerk looks at him like he's crazy. Fights tomorrow night. You sure? Eddie's sure. He puts $20,000 on Tyson by first-round knockout instead. The odds are terrible. He'll barely break, even if it hits. But it's not about the money anymore, that it's about having seen something real in a world built on performance. About witnessing the moment the mask drops, and what's underneath isn't another mask, that it's teeth. Derek Williams pulls out of the fight at 11:40 p.m. His manager releases a statement about a hand injury discovered during the post-weigh-in medical check. His promoter talks about rescheduling for later in the year. HBO runs the weigh-in footage on loop, analyzing every second, looking for the moment where it all went wrong. They never find it because it wasn't visible to cameras. It happened in the space between two men, in the silence that fell over a ballroom. In the 72 seconds where Derek Williams stood 3 feet from Mike Tyson and learned something about the universe he wished he hadn't. Some men are born to fight. Some men are born to win. And some men are born as a warning to the others about what exists at the edge of human capability. Mike Tyson never comments on Williams pulling out. Doesn't call him a coward. Doesn't question the injury. Just moves on to the next fight, the next opponent, the next man who thinks maybe this time will be different. Because that's the thing about being what Tyson is. You don't have to prove it twice. Once is enough. Once, everyone knows. Eddie Greco watches the tape 3 more times over the next week. Watches Tyson's stillness. Watches Williams' breathing change. Watches the exact moment at the 47-second mark when Williams' eyes drop to Tyson's fists. And he thinks about his uncle's words about the thing you can't teach. About the difference between fighting and violence. About what it means to look at another human being and see not an opponent, but a force of nature. Derek Williams fought 28 men and beat them all, but he never fought Mike Tyson. Because the fight ended before it started in a ballroom in Las Vegas, under bright lights, with 1,200 witnesses who saw everything and understood nothing, except the 2 men who were their 0.3 feet apart, separated by distance and connected by the oldest human knowledge. The knowledge that lives in the spine before it reaches the brain. The knowledge that some men are predators and some men are prey, and no amount of training, skill, or confidence changes which one you are when you look into the eyes of something built for dominance. Williams learned that lesson without a single punch being thrown. Some would say he got off easy. Others would say he learned it the hard way. He'll carry those 72 seconds for the rest of his life. And he'll never know if he could have beaten Mike Tyson. But he knows, he'll always know, that his body answered the question before his mind could, and the answer was run, even though his feet never moved. Even though he stood his ground until his corner pulled him away, his body knew. And that knowledge ended his career more completely than any knockout ever could, because you can come back from being beaten. You can't come back from knowing you were afraid. Not at that level. Not when it shows. Not when 1,200 people and 40 cameras caught the moment you realized you were in over your head. Derek Williams retired 6 months later. Said it was on his terms. Said he'd accomplished everything he wanted in boxing. Maybe that's true, or maybe he just didn't want to stand across from that feeling ever again. The feeling of being 3 feet from Mike Tyson and understanding exactly what Cus D'Amato built. Not a boxer, a weapon. With eyes.